Aaron, I was hoping you could just start out by giving us a brief introduction of who you are and what you do here at Home Sweet Home.
Sure, yeah, my name is Aaron Stine. I've been here at Home Sweet Home Ministries for about 2.5 years. Started out in rapid rehousing and then came over to case management. So specifically part of my case management role right now is to work with veterans as well.
That's great. Yeah, and you've been doing that for a little while now.
Yeah, it's been about a year.
Yeah. The part of being trauma-informed that we're talking about specifically is the importance of thinking from a strengths-based perspective and really focusing in on strengths in the work that you do. And so I was hoping you had a story that you could share with us about how that has been an important part of your work with someone.
Yeah, I think the overall perspective of thinking from the trauma-informed care, I have a story of a veteran. I'll just maybe change the name and call him Roger. I think the first thing, meeting somebody, obviously I don't know anything about their background, I don't know their true story yet, and so listening becomes one of the first things that I need to hone in on, and what I'm listening for is kind of clarifying what the story being told to me is. The example in that is Roger had lost 2 very close loved ones very quickly together, a wife and then a daughter. And probably in the first meeting, I kept hearing him say, "I've never lived alone, I've never lived alone, I've never lived alone." Well, I was picking up, because of the trauma-informed care training and things that we've received here, I was paying attention to that because he was telling me something without telling me. He wasn't telling me, "I don't want to live alone." He was telling me, "I've never lived alone." And so I picked up on that, and he was somebody that was very sociable, needed to talk about this. So the goals and things in that developed, he had no connections with, he is a veteran, he had no connections with any VA services. So he had very limited, really restricted income. So before just going off on trying how we're going to get you housed and things like that, we spent quite a bit of time just letting him tell his piece about living through loss. And then each part of being here, he found out that there was another person that he could tell it to. And eventually he got to where he received counseling from our intern counselor that was here. He got hooked up with all of our VA services. And then the goal developed much later towards housing, and he wanted to make it to his own place in time to set up a Christmas tree in honor of his wife and his daughter, and that was like a goal for him. So the real strength of just thinking about it from trauma-informing care was without listening, I could have just ticked boxes and said, well, you have low income, you just need to get hooked up with VA services, and we're just going to push for housing.
That sounds like you cued in on the social inclination and really allowed him to tell that story in you know,
it became part of the healing for him.
Yeah.
He didn't have anybody he could talk to about this. Once he found out he was in a shelter that had some compassion and care around him, he began to open up and really became friendly and friends with most of the staff, as much as you can be
Sure.
in that situation. By the time he left, he was successful in getting housed before Christmas. All the VA services are still engaged. He has an apartment, we got him furniture, all the things he needed, and he still right now is engaged with counseling here with Home Sweet Home Ministries.
You know, one of the big concepts that I'm trying to help people think about is looking at things with our trauma-informed glasses or through a trauma-informed lens. And it certainly sounds like that's what what your work with Roger encompassed was really understanding his story, right?
Yeah.
I guess, what do you think would have happened with Roger if you didn't try to understand him from that trauma-informed perspective? If you didn't put on your trauma-informed glasses, what would it have been like, do you think?
Yeah, if it would have just been cut and dry services, like go here, do this. As a person, he would have suffered, possibly just went back to the living situation he was in, which he came in very stressed. And his environment wasn't supporting him, so it would have really just been a collapse at some point for him. I think trust would have been a problem for him to actually want to go get help somewhere else. And I just don't think as an individual he could have handled living by himself yet. But I think because of the confidence, by addressing the trauma, listening to the trauma, and then taking all the other viewpoints away and just saying, we're going to connect where you are. You came in very high stressed until we found out why, and kept hearing, I've never lived alone, I've never lived alone, I've never lived alone. But then I was seeing signs from him. That's what he wanted to know. He wanted to know he could do it.
Yeah.
And I just don't think, I think we would have failed him if we looked at it from a different perspective and just did services only.
I'm really glad you kept those trauma glasses on, man. That sounds like your work with him was really both effective and supportive in the midst of it. So I was wondering if you had anything else you wanted to talk about when it comes to looking for strengths in the people that we're working with. Do you have any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that just valuing the person and knowing that you can see and find a strength in somebody that maybe they don't actually know about themselves, instantly boost their own self-esteem. So depression, anxiety, all these things that most of us battle at one level or another, the strength focus isn't something that I tell them is their strength, but they start to tell me. And another example was another client that didn't even know if he was going to stay in the community. But I found out listening when we started talking about jobs, he was a chef somewhere before, like he'd literally been trained. He had the apron, he knew how to handle knives. And so I picked up on that was a strength that I was hearing come out of him. He really enjoyed it. And so I contacted the kitchen manager here, and we do some resident partnership kind of things and try to see what they like to do. And I applied and tried to help him go in as like a kitchen assistant, not just somebody to do the dishes.
I worked in the kitchen at the same time as him. Yeah, he's great.
And so, but from that, he's another example of, he came in with a lot of trauma, very severe trauma, and another type of loss in a really bad way, fighting depression, anxiety, and all of those things. And now in the last meeting that I've had, he's making some decisions that he wants to maybe stay in the area. He also got into counseling. He's doing excellent in the kitchen, and the conversations just opened up again. I think I'm just going to stay on listening is a really good skill from Trauma Informed. First of all, get some training, which I'm thankful that Home Sweet Home Ministries put us case managers, others through trauma-informed training care, so that I can step back when maybe they're acting out and they're doing this and they're not talking, keep the glasses on so that I don't lose sight of who they are.
Well, Aaron, that's great. I'm glad that the training has been beneficial to you. I'm glad to hear how you clearly use the training in your work, and really appreciate the support that you've given to the veterans that we serve and the other clients that you work with.
Sure.
Thanks a lot.
Glad. Thank you.